Welcome to the ECE Classroom podcast with your host, SusieBeghin, inspiring early childhood educators every day. Hello and welcome to the ECE Classroom, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of early childhood education, parenting tips, and creative learning strategies. I'm your host, SusieBeghin, and today we have a very special guest joining us. Her name is Christine Devane, a former educator and children's book author. Christine spent about 13 years in early childhood education and is the author of a children's book called Elephant Beach, which is a story about a young girl expecting a relaxing reading day at the beach that is quickly disrupted by elephants that love to play. I'm so excited to have you here today, Christine. You bring such incredible insights into the field, and I know our listeners are eager to learn from you. But before we jump in today's topic, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and what drew you to early childhood education and what inspires you to continue to work with children?
Sure. Good morning, and thank you so much for having me today. So, growing up, I was very shy. I loved animals. I actually wanted to be a vet, but I cannot take the sight of blood. So, that career path did not work for me. And then as I grew up, I started working with children, babysitting, working at after school programs, and I really loved going to work. And it was always fun for me because I found that I got to be creative, and children are just so fun to be around that I decided then that I wanted to have a career in teaching. So I went to Merrimack College, and then from there, I became a second grade teacher. I taught at a Catholic school for a year. Then I became a third grade teacher. I moved to public school and I stayed there. And it was when I was teaching that I realized how impactful read alouds are, and it was my favorite part of the day. I loved reading with my students. We got to have really good discussions. They were laugh, and it brought out a lot of emotions. And that's when I decided I wanted to write my own book. And since then, I have three small children. My son's going to actually be 6 next week, 4 and 2. So I'm home with my children, but at this point now my book's been published, so it's been fun. I've been back in the classroom teaching lessons about the book and just having fun story times.
That's amazing. I did an episode not too long ago about circle time. And storytelling was part of that episode where we talked about, the benefits of storytelling and why we do storytelling. I just love that you brought that into this. But today, what I really want to focus on is talking about the content of some stories, right? So in particular, your book tends to lend towards teaching about kindness and acceptance. So can you tell me a little bit about why you think that stories are a powerful way to teach things like kindness and acceptance in early childhood?
So I think stories are very important because children learn without thinking they're learning, which is kind of the best way to go about it. They're not just sitting there reading a paper, they're actually learning through the story. And sometimes they don't even know they're learning. And then they tell you after, oh, well, the character did this or the character did that. So I always thought that it was a great way to help them, especially with their social skills, because especially smaller children, social skills are so important. And a lot of times schools don't focus on those as much. So I always thought that they were a great way to get kids to learn through reading a book together.
Yeah, I happen to agree with that. I think that stories is a powerful way to teach social skills, especially because it is hard, to teach those skills unless you come across a situation where it's a teaching moment, right? Where you have a conflict. Maybe you have children who have to get along and we help them to problem solve a situation. But if you don't have that conflict, if you don't have those specific situations that happen, it's really hard to because it's something that you have to experience. And I think that's where stories come in because, children put themselves into the characters of the story and they become the characters and they can learn from what the characters are doing and saying. Um, Tell me a little bit about your book, Elephant Beach, and what inspired you to write it.
Okay, so growing up, I was always shy. I liked reading books by myself. And so the main character in the book is shy, and she goes to the beach and she wants to just have a nice beach day by herself and read her book. And there's a group of elephants who she thinks are annoying her, but they're not doing it on purpose. So they do things like come close to her, and because they're so big, there's a shadow and they block the sun, or they move and they get sand all over her towel. And they invite her to play, and she says no at first, and then eventually she joins the group. So it shows kids that sometimes it takes a little while to warm up. Not every kid wants to join the group. And it has a message for introverts and extroverts. And I have three children. I have one very strong extrovert, one very strong introvert, and then my youngest, she's kind of two, so she's a little too young to tell what she is.
Yeah.
But it shows kids that it's okay to take a little while to join a group. And also, sometimes joining a group can be fun. So she might have had a fun beach day alone, but since she joined the group, she had a different kind of beach day. And it also shows the kids that are extroverts that sometimes it's nice to just go over and invite people to be in the group. Sometimes kids aren't just going to come over and join the group. So it's nice to just go over and invite them. And then a message to kids and adults is just not to judge people before you get to know them. So she at first thought the elephants were bothering her and annoying. And then once she gave them the time and she got to know them, she really had fun with them. So it just kind of shows different sides of the spectrum. And like I said, having children, I have all different personalities. So it just shows that everybody's different and just to really be kind to one another.
Wow. That's amazing. And I tend to be on the introvert side as well, believe it or not, as a podcast host. But I grew up very shy, hiding behind my mother's pant leg kind of thing, that kind of shy. And over time, obviously, I've come out of my shell, but I'm still that reserved person where I have to get to know somebody before I can really engage with them. And I really love the themes going through your book about, both sides, right? The person who's trying to enter the play and having a hard time, and also the other person who is very boisterous, maybe, and expects that everybody wants to enter the same way that they do. And I love that it shows both sides of that. I wish that was around when I was a kid. It would help me to understand myself better, right? And I
I know
love
I was
that.
the same way growing up. I was the same exact way. I was very shy. I didn't really want to go join the group. So it's tough when you're shy and you're a kid and not everybody understands it.
Yeah. And I love that it can teach those from both points of view. And you can even role play it, right? Like when you read the story in the classroom, you can role play, what did this child do? What did the elephant do? And, how did they approach the play differently? You can talk about all those different aspects. Love that. Love it. So tell me, as a former teacher, how does this book reflect on your experiences that you had inside the classroom?
So as a former teacher, I think that it just shows how we can use stories to work with our students. And I really tried to show something that had a message that teachers could use. And I also have a bunch of activities that I do when I go into the classroom. So we play games with the beach balls, I have coloring sheets, and then we do an activity after where the kids pretend they're at the beach and what do they want to do with an elephant. It's funny when I go visit the classrooms, they say, "Oh, we can tell you are a former teacher because you bring all this stuff to do. You don't just bring the book." And that's what I'm trying to get across, that you can do more than just read a book with kids. You can have discussions, you can make activities, you can make it fun. It doesn't just have to be, let's read a book and be done with it. And I think almost all good teachers already know that, but that's just something that I want other people and parents too to understand, that we don't have to just read the book and put it away.
Right. I love that. I have two things I want to say about that. First of all, that, this is very timely for this time of year, right? Summertime, where I am in the world. And, this book would be amazing to read at this time because, we follow children's interests. So they're already interested in things to do about going to the beach. But I love that you go into the classroom and read the book and bring activities with you that are related. So one thing that we do within our daycares is that we have what we call story kits. So we have a story and then we have props that go with the story. So we create a story kit based on a book. And I think your book would be a really good one to create a story kit on. So my question to you would be, if we created a story kit on your book, what kind of props could we include with your book? Like what kind of things would make it come alive? Because I really believe that a story kit really helps children to understand the story better and makes that story come alive in their imaginations.
I agree. And when I've been going into the classrooms, I've actually been bringing towels. So the kids actually sit on the towels and pretend they're at the beach. And
Love
then
it.
I give out sunglasses. So they think that's fun that they get to sit there and pretend they're at the beach. They don't have to wear them, but that some kids put them on their head. And then I bring in a beach ball too. So when we have discussions, instead of just calling on kids, I throw the beach ball to them, which they think is fun. It's just something different and something meaningful to kids rather than just reading the book and being done with it. So there's all sorts of different things that you could do for props to go with the book. Like I said, I use towels, beach balls, and sunglasses, but there's many other things you could use elephant
Yeah.
puppets, you could use props that have to do with elephants.
Yeah. And I'm thinking even just sand, right? Yeah, sand play, right? We can, read the story around the sand table while the children are engaging with the sand. So why did you choose elephants in this story? What was your thinking around that?
So, growing up, elephants were always my favorite animal, and my grandparents and my parents started a collection for me. So, whenever they went away, they would bring me back lucky elephants. And they're just such funny social animals, and we can learn a lot from them. I've actually been to Africa and seen elephants in the wild, and they're just so wise, but also kind and, like I said, playful and funny. So I thought they would make a perfect character for a book because kids think they're funny. And it was cute. I went into a classroom recently, and this little girl knew I was coming, and she wore her elephant shirt, and she was so proud to show me. And she said, I love elephants and I wanted to wear my shirt for you. And I just thought that they would be something that kids could connect to. But like I said, they're also funny and very social. So I thought that they would be good for a book about social issues.
Right. Yeah, that's really neat. I tend to love elephants as well. I don't know what it is about them. I just find, even though they're so big, like when you see them up close, they just seem like gentle creatures, right? Okay, so tell me about your years as an educator. How did that influence the story and the way you think about children's literature?
So when I was teaching, there were all sorts of kids in the classroom. There's kids that are, like I said, my own children, kids in the classroom. There's extroverts, introverts. And I really just wanted to make a story to show kids that are shy that they're not the only ones because sometimes they think they're the only child that feels that way. And it is tough being shy when you don't want to talk in school. And it can be hard throughout the day when there's kids around you talking and you really just want to be left alone. So it was through teaching that I wanted to get a message out there to those kids. And I saw them in my classroom. And like I said, growing up shy and then just something for everybody to connect with, but also for the shy kids to know that they're not alone.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, that's really nice. And so let's talk about that. Let's talk about what do you think, what are those strategies that we can teach to children? And maybe there's some of the themes that come out in your book to build empathy, right? To build that sense of creating belonging, right? To make everyone feel like they're included, regardless of, we have all different personalities, all different temperaments. How can we teach that empathy to make people feel like they belong? Do you have any insights on that?
So like I said, my kids, one is very extroverted. So I tell him all the time, why don't you ask this person to play with you? And he has a hard time understanding because we have some friends that are shy and they don't always want to join. And I've been teaching him that sometimes it's nice to go over and invite them to play. And it took him a little while to kind of get that, but now he does go over and he asks kids if they want to play. And we do have friends that sometimes want to take a break and he doesn't understand that either. And I'll say, well, sometimes they just want to sit by themselves. Not everybody wants to join a group. So kind of playing on that it's nice to ask kids to come in and join the group, and not everybody has as much of an easy time joining the group. So yesterday, for example, I went to the library with my two boys, and there was a Shark Week, the like activity. As soon as we get there, my older son, there's my friend, ran away. And my younger son, who's the introvert, kind of just hung by me, and he wanted to color and stuff like that. So they're just totally different. And I try to teach them that it's okay to be different. And if you want to go be with your friend, and if he wants to sit here and color by himself, that's totally fine. And
Right.
also just letting educators and parents know that it's okay. Not all kids are going to jump right into everything. And I think parents sometimes have a hard time too if their kid is a shy child and takes a little while to warm up. And it's just something you have to be patient with them. In the book, the girl shows that she's brave because the elephants are afraid of a hermit crab. So it shows that even though she was shy, she also has strengths. And compared to the elephant, she thinks they're silly because they're afraid of the crab. So it just shows that everybody has strengths, and just to be patient with kids.
Right. And I agree with you. I think there's some pressure. I felt it as a child too. There's pressure to overcome shyness, right? And parents
Yes.
can pressure their kids because they don't understand if they don't want to engage, or if they don't want to talk to somebody when somebody's talking to them and they're a little bit silent. Or even educators, right? Educators sometimes, want to say, okay, everybody needs to be involved in this. Everybody needs to be doing this same thing. And I agree that there's that pressure there, and it doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be there. I think
Mhm.
your message is very clear, and it's very valid, that we need to respect the individual and their individual temperament. And if their temperament is more introverted, where they might want alone time, and that's okay. They don't have to always be part of the group. They can have their alone time. And same with the other child. Maybe the other child doesn't want the alone time and wants to engage. So, pressuring either way, I think, is something we need to stop doing, and move more towards, let's respect the individual. We know their personalities. We know who the introverts are. We know who the extroverts are. Let's respect that personality and not push them in either direction, right? I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, and I think that pushing them doesn't help and makes them feel frustrated. And I know when I was younger and when people tried to push me to do things, it didn't help at all. It does the opposite. So I can remember being in school being called on, and I did not like it, and I turned bright red. So when I became a teacher, I tried not to do that. I tried to let kids share when they want to share. And if they don't want to share, that's okay. And same thing with my own kids. I have one that will tell you everything that happened in the day, and then one that won't tell you anything. So sometimes I just have to ask him questions, but if he doesn't want to talk, that's fine. Sometimes he will share if he did something in the day, but I just think that, yeah, a lot of people put pressure on kids all being social, and we're not all social, and kids aren't going to be all social. So just letting them kind of be.
Yeah. And with age too comes different kinds of personality. Like, I'm not the person I was when I was 5 years old, right? The shyness that I experienced at 5 years old or 10 years old or 15 years old is not the same person I am today, right? And I think parents, but even educators sometimes think once you're like this, you're always like this, or you're not going to get out of it, right? But you change and you mature, and things, you build more self-esteem, you build whatever it is. Maybe you're going to always be an introvert, but in a different way. Like I said, I'm still an introvert at heart, but I do things like this. I take myself sometimes out of my comfort zone to do something, and grow in a different way. But I feel like we got to get rid of this pressure and this pushing, like you said, to be a certain way that we expect them to be. So I love the message, and I never thought we would be talking about this today, but I love that it took this interesting turn. Yeah, that's amazing. So, what do you hope that kids will take away from the story, and how might they see themselves in the story? I understand the introvert extrovert part, but anything else they might take away from it?
Just that everybody's different, everybody has different interests. I mean, who knew that my love of elephants would turn into a book? And
Right.
just that everybody has their own creativity and differences, and just really allowing children to have their own personality because everybody is into different things. And I think another thing too, when you're a kid, everybody's supposed to like the same things. And yeah, I think just letting everybody be themselves, have their own personality, and just that every child is unique in their own way.
Yeah. I love how you explored this topic. It's creating that the value of kindness and acceptance of differences, acceptance of, personalities, and letting just people be, right? So I love those themes going through your book, and definitely going to pick up a copy for my daycares and share it around. How do you think we can inspire children to become lifelong readers and lifelong learners? I'm a big supporter of lifelong learning, and when incorporating a book like the way that you do, and teaching it in a way that they don't think that they're learning. How do you inspire children to develop that love of reading?
So I think that one of the best ways to teach children is through experiences. I know with my own kids, they learn better when they're doing things hands on. So the library in my town is great. They have tons of activities. I bring my kids all the time. It doesn't cost anything. So I think a lot of parents and teachers could look into doing stuff like that for their kids. I mean, just yesterday we went to a Shark Week thing and they had all sorts of shark books, and my kids loved it. And just getting them to get out there and learn. And then even if you find books, one of my sons likes bugs, and they had a thing at the library reading with bugs. So he read books and then they brought out worms and he loved it and he remembered everything that he read in the book. So I think bringing books to life and showing kids that books aren't just words on paper, they connect to our life, and showing kids that there's fun ways to be reading and just to get out there and look for different kinds of activities for kids. Like I said, my library has a lot that I bring my kids to all the time, and it encourages them to read. We read every night. They have a summer reading program that they do over there. And yeah, I think that that's the best way to encourage the reading. Just make it fun and make it something they remember, and show them that it has impact on their own life.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I feel like as educators, we rarely take the time to maybe make a trip to the library, right? And explore different kinds of books, because in the daycare setting, we have a limited number of books in our classrooms, right? But if we go to a library, there's like so many books that we can explore. So what a great concept to say, okay, to instill that love for reading and to show kids how important it is, let's plan a field trip to the library where there's a lot of books, and we can, like you said, they have activities that go along with the books. A lot of the times they have themes and different things that are going on, like you mentioned. So I think that's a great way, just stepping into the library once in a while. And even as a parent, it's a great opportunity to get your kids to love reading, and obviously taking out books, right? And bringing them home, and, having that, you're never going to have that full library within your house, but, borrowing through the library system is perfect, right? Because you can explore so many different books, and then give them back. So thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate you sharing your newest book, Elephant Beach, with us, and the themes going through it. And like I said, I'm definitely going to pick one up for my daycare. And I hope that others here listening will also pick it up. If you can just tell them where they can find it.
Sure. And thank you so much for having me. So the book is on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. You can find it there and you can order it online, and hopefully you'll enjoy it at the beach.
Wonderful. And thanks again for being here. All right. Welcome back. It was so nice to talk to Christine today and learn about her book called Elephant Beach. And again, it's so timely for this time of year. And I thought it had some wonderful themes going through it. So I just wanted to quickly highlight what I took away from today's episode. I really think that books are such a powerful way to help children understand big feelings and important values, things like kindness and acceptance. Through the characters in stories, kids begin to see what kindness looks like, what it feels like to belong, what it feels like to accept people, and how beautiful it is to accept others just as they are, without trying to change them. When we read stories with these themes, we're planting seeds of empathy, compassion, and connection. Whether it's a character who feels left out or bothered, someone learning to include others, or a friend showing kindness in a small way, these moments spark really meaningful conversations that we can have with children. So today, I encourage you to dive into a book that reminds children that everyone deserves to be seen, heard, and loved, just as they are. Thanks for tuning in to the ECE Classroom with SusieBeghin. For more information, you can visit our website at www.SusieBeghin.com. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast so you can stay up to date on the latest episodes. Thanks for listening.